The 11.5 million undocumented immigrants across the United States and what to do about them has become a massive political issue. George W. Bush tried and failed at passing immigration reform back in 2007, and President Obama ran on the issue in 2008, winning with overwhelming support from the Hispanic community. President Obama delivered a primetime address last night, and joining us right now to talk about that is Republican Congressman David Valadao. Congressman, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
It was a long night for both Democrats and Republicans last night, and there's a lot to cover here. We just heard the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, talking about the issue. He said the president is damaging the presidency. Now, George Bush tried and failed at this in 2007. As a matter of fact, a direct quote from George Bush after that happened was, "Congress's failure to act on immigration reform is a disappointment." That was in 2007. Now, instead of just accepting a failure or waiting for the 114th Congress to kick in, Barack Obama has taken matters into his own hands. What do you feel about what he had to say last night?
Well, it's obviously very frustrating. We just had an election, and he talked about doing this before the election, then he backed off and waited till just after the election to do it. It's obviously a huge sign that he's doing this for political reasons, and he knew it wasn't the right way to do it, especially the fact that he said, I think 21, 22 different times, that he didn't have the power to do this. But most importantly, immigration reform is something that needs to be done, but it needs to be done correctly. And I've been one of the strongest advocates to make sure that the House passes a bill, goes through the legislative process, debates this in an open and transparent process, and does what's fair for obviously those who are here, American citizens, and those who are going through the process to do things the legal way, but also a system that recognizes that we have got a broken system, and make sure that we fix it so that it works for future generations.
Yeah.
And what was done yesterday wasn't that. It was the president needs to do a better job of reaching out and talking. He's done nothing but stand behind a podium and do press conferences and campaign speeches. But we need someone that knows how to work and get things done. And
Congressman, you represent the 21st District out here in California. It's not like we're in the state of Maine. Now, all Americans are concerned, or at least should be concerned, about the 11.5 million undocumented immigrants currently living in our country. But Congress has only got a couple options. They could either try to impeach the president, or they could pull the funding and we could see another government shutdown. So what are the next steps for Congress now moving into January?
So the impeachment, I know people love throwing that word out there, but to actually do that, you need the votes in the Senate. Even in the 114th Congress, the votes aren't in the Senate. That's a brick wall. As far as the funding, most of the funding for the things that the president did comes from fees for people who are going through the system. So it's not something that's actually appropriated from Congress. It's fees that are from the people that are going through the program. But as far as what we should be doing is go back to the drawing board and make sure that we come up with a system that works, that we think is fair, that actually creates a good immigration system, and so we can get this executive order off the table. It's something we should have done in the last Congress, but it's something now that we need to start focusing on. Instead of looking for a fight, we should look for solutions.
Okay, I'm going to run this by you here, Congressman. There is a notion, it's speculation purely, but it's that the president is doing this deliberately to bait the Republicans in order to damage the Republicans heading into the 2016 election, so potentially the Democrats can retake the House, the Senate, and ultimately the presidency.
It's really hard to say. I know this president has been probably one of the most political presidents I've ever seen, and most I've ever seen. He's spent more time campaigning and focusing on elections than anybody else. But at the end of the day, we have a real problem that needs to be taken care of. And the Republicans in the House and now in the Senate in the 114th need to come up with solutions. And passing an immigration reform that includes securing the border, includes having a system that allows people to come here, a legal process, making sure that we have guest worker programs that work, I think need to be a priority and get through the process. But have that open and transparent debate, I think, is where we need to focus the attention.
Congressman, I've heard this securing the border phrase thrown around several times by Congressman Kevin McCarthy as well, and I really think it's more of a crutch phrase. Obviously, the borders need to be secured, but there still are 11.5 million undocumented folks living in this country right now who are not American citizens, who, if they're not felons or criminals, should be American citizens in the opinions of the majority of our leaders on both the left and the right. So George Bush tried to do this in 2007. He failed. and his presidency came to an end. Barack Obama took over in 2008. Now, that's 7 years ago that George Bush tried to do this. How long are we going to wait? How long do these people have to wait? If you guys don't do it in the 114th Congress and Barack Obama doesn't act, when do we wait? The 115th, the 116th? The borders, there's so many things that have to happen, but how long are we going to wait before this issue can be resolved?
Well, and there was progress being made, and there was a lot of people actually coming really close to a solution. But then when the president shows up and does what he did yesterday, it did not bring people together. What it did was it created a bigger divide in Congress.
Right.
And it created another thing to fight over versus sitting around and having a normal conversation about how to do this and fix it. The approach that he took, if he was this serious about fixing the problem, when he had both majorities in the House his first 2 years as president, and if he had followed through on his promise, they would have had an open and transparent process, pass a bill that works, not a middle of the night, we'll read it after we pass it type of thing like they did with the health care reform, but an actual solution to this problem. But he didn't do that. He wants to make this a political issue, and that's why he's played the way he's done all along. And it's truly sad because there are people, of those 11 million, yes, we all agree there are some bad people in there, but there's a lot of really good people that deserve an opportunity to get right with the law and come out of the shadows. And that has to be done through the open and transparent legislative process. And this president has done nothing to foster that relationship to get those things done.
Yeah, and you, of course, come from a family of Portuguese immigrants and who have located to the Central Valley. Congressman, quickly, do you think the president? There's been a lot of debate as to whether or not the president really has the executive authority to actually do this. Now, I know a lot of the Republicans are going to say no, he doesn't, and the Democrats are going to say sure, he does. In your unbiased opinion, does he have the executive authority to do this?
Unbiased, I think it's probably a little bit of a stretch.
Right.
But no, obviously there is a lot of discretion the president does have. I mean, you can see even down to what he can do as far as pardoning criminals in prison. There's a lot of things that a president can do. He does have the opportunity, but this one for sure is an abuse of power, and is way beyond what he has, what he should be doing. And as far as legally, we'll have to see when the experts weigh in and really get a chance to look through what he actually did.
All right. Interesting last night, if you watched Fox News, they said the president was abusing his power. If you watched MSNBC at the very same time, they said the president was just being presidential. Congressman, it's going to be fascinating to see how things play out here. We thank you very much for joining us. Now get some sleep. Thanks so much, Congressman.
Hey.